the cradle, trying just to survive, walking through the struggle, keeping hope alive. City lights are shining, but the road gets rough. Too many people hurting, feeling not enough. Philly keeps on fighting through the darkest nights, but community and love can help us win the fight. One step turns to many, many turns to change. When hope becomes a language, nothing stays the same. For your family, your crew, your community, building a future full of unity, knowledge, resources, support by your side. Step into your purpose, walk with pride. Cradles to crowns, we're lifting up the city, helping families grow strong and steady. From the struggle to the victory sound, together we rise. From cradles to crowns, educated in power. Let your dreams be found. Your next chapter starts right now. No more fear, no more standing alone. We're building hope. We're building hope. Cradles to ground, let the whole world see. A stronger tomorrow starts with you and me. Keep hope alive, hope alive. Stand tall and proud, tall and proud. Together we rise. Cradles to crowns. Cradles to crowns. Cradles to crowns.
Mentioned today, I'm going to be talking about recent changes to federal SNAP rules, and we're going to talk about exactly what happened, how does it affect you, and then some resources that are available in Philadelphia. So the first section, I'm going to just do a broad overview of SNAP work requirements. Before I get super into it, I just want to make note that I'm going to be talking about a lot of different things. It'll be very high overview. And so if there's any additional questions afterwards, you can always feel free to email us at foodaccess@phila.gov with any questions you might have. And either we'll be able to answer the question or point you in the right direction of the person who's more knowledgeable. So here is an overview of the first part of the presentation. So we'll talk about changes to SNAP eligibility, next steps for impacted recipients, resources, and then I'll take a pause really quick just to see if there's any questions before we move on to the more like resource heavy section of the presentation. So there have been recent changes in SNAP eligibility. This is a result of a federal HR 1 bill. It's also known, you might have heard about it in the news as the Big Beautiful Bill Act. So now people that previously did not have to meet work requirements to get their SNAP benefits are now subject to those work requirements. So previously, Philly, along with most other big cities in the country, had a geographic waiver, meaning that nobody within city limits had to meet these work requirements. With the passage of the HR 1 bill, Philadelphians now have to meet the work requirements in order to keep their SNAP benefits that they're entitled to. So later in the presentation, we're going to talk about different ways for you to meet those SNAP benefits. We'll talk about potential exemptions. But if you don't meet the work requirements and don't show you have an exemption, That means you're going to be non-complying and you can only receive SNAP for 3 months across a 3-year period. So most months you're not going to be able to access those benefits. So it's really important to us to do these kinds of info sessions to make sure that people know their different options and hopefully make sure that people can keep their benefits. So this slide breaks down the eligibility changes a little bit more. I really want to focus on the right-hand side, which is the most recent changes. They went into effect in early November. And so basically, you have to meet work requirements if you are on SNAP between the ages of 18 and 64. You don't have a dependent under 14, and you don't have a medical exemption. If you fall into that category, then you're going to have to meet those work requirements and make sure that your county assistance office knows that you're doing so. So we have seen a lot of people lose their benefits, not because they aren't meeting the work requirements. Sometimes they lose the benefits because they just aren't filling out the right paperwork. And so that is really the goal of these sessions, to make sure you know like what forms you need to fill out, who you need to talk to, all that kind of stuff, because we really don't want the paperwork burden to get in the way of people accessing their benefits. So now that Philly is subject to these work requirements, people who get SNAP benefits are going to fall into one of 3 categories. The first one is folks who are exempt. So there's certain conditions that you might have that exempts you from having to meet those work requirements. Now, some of these things, which I'll go into in a couple slides, your county assistance office might already know about. So like, for example, if you are over the age of 64, your county assistance office is already going to know that. But if it's like a more specific medical condition that they don't already know about, there's going to be additional forms for you to fill out to make sure that they know that you meet this exemption, and you'll have to have a provider sign that attesting to your condition. The second category that folks might fall into is people who are complying. So these are people who are meeting their work requirements, either through classic work, so like what you would think of a normal job. You can also volunteer to meet your work requirements, or if you're partaking in an approved education and training program, you then are considered complying with the work requirements. So again, I'll go into further detail a couple slides down, but just as an overview, there will be some folks who are complying with the work requirements. And then this third category is technically called time limited, but basically what that means is that you are not meeting the work requirements or you're not providing the proper paperwork to the county assistance office. And so if you fall into this time limited category, this means that you can only receive your SNAP benefits for up to 3 months over a 3-year time period. And we're already seeing these changes now. So really happy to be here today to talk to you about different action you can take. So on this slide, we break down a list of exemptions that people might qualify for. So like I mentioned, you have to demonstrate to the county assistance office that you meet one of these exemption categories. Some of these, like I said, the county assistance office would already know about, like your age. However, if you have a medical exemption, there's a different form that needs to be filled out. If you are a VISTA volunteer, you need to show that, like, here's my pay stubs, I'm part of the program. There might be additional steps that you need to take in order to show that you meet one of these exemptions. So I'll show you in a couple slides the medical exemption form that can be found on the Pennsylvania DHS website. It's called PA Form 1921. So this is a form that your doctor, somebody on your care team would fill out on your behalf, and then it gets submitted to the county assistance office. If you think you might qualify for a non-medical exemption, there's a separate form that you need to fill out, which is also available on the Pennsylvania DHS website, which is called the CM558. So it's really important that if you think you meet one of these exemption requirements, that you fill these forms out and submit it to your county assistance office. And we also want to note that exemptions are applied per person, not for the whole household. So maybe you qualify for an exemption, but your partner doesn't. That means that you would be exempt from meeting the work requirements, but they would still need to figure out a way to meet work requirements to keep getting their benefits. We know that this can be like quite confusing trying to figure out if you're exempt or not. So PA DHS recently launched this screening tool on their website. So it basically goes through and asks you a bunch of different questions, which might help you determine if you could have an exemption. I have the link right here, so you would just click that and it'll take you to this page. We want to note that this is a great tool as you're kind of thinking about your situation. You're trying to come up with your next best steps, but this is totally like informational. If you take the screener and they say, oh, you know what? You actually do qualify for an exemption, you're still going to need to go and take the additional step to fill out the forms and submit them to the county assistance office. This is just for informational purposes. This is what the medical exemption form looks like. Again, this form is called PA 1921. So you can find it on the Pennsylvania DHS website. We have it linked over here on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, you can see what it looks like. So like I mentioned, a provider is going to fill this out on your behalf. And it's really important that this person has an established relationship to the affected participant. So we don't want somebody who like meets a social worker one time to have them fill out this exemption form. It's really important that like they know you well, they know your condition, and can kind of help you throughout the whole process. So a doctor could fill this form out for you, a nurse, a physician's assistant, social worker, really anybody billed by Medicaid. And if you or the person filling this out on your behalf needs any help, there is the statewide customer service line. So for Philly, you would call the number 215-560-7226. So if you call that number, they would be able to help you work through this form and answer any questions you might have. Again, just as a reminder, once you fill out this form, you're going to need to take the extra step and submit it to the county assistance office to ensure that they know about your exemption. So now we'll talk about what people who fall into this complying category can do. So these are people who do not qualify for an exemption and therefore have to meet the work requirements. So you have a couple options if you fall into this category. The first is that you work 80 hours a month. So this is kind of the most traditional path. You don't have to work the same amount every week. So say, for example, one week, your schedule's really free, so you can work 50 hours, but the next week you can only work 10, and the week after that you can work 20. That's totally okay as long as you're hitting those 80 hours a month. There's also no pay requirement if you meet the full 80-hour requirement. So this work can be in kind. The second way that you can make sure that you're complying with work requirements is to participate in an approved employment and training program. So we have some options or some like approved programs listed below. I also know that Pennsylvania is working really hard to expand this list of programs because we just want to make sure that people have the most options possible to maintain their benefits. So we're really hoping that the list of approved programs is going to continue to grow. And then finally, you can do community service or volunteering to meet your work requirements. So you're gonna have to have a separate form filled out if this is the route you go. We have it linked under number 3 here. It's PA 1938, the community service form. And so the organization that you're volunteering with is going to have to fill this out on your behalf, and then you would take it to the county assistance office. One thing to note about the community service option is that there's not a set hour requirement in the same way there is for the work option. So it's gonna depend person to person how many hours per month you're gonna have to volunteer for to meet the requirements. It's your SNAP grant, so that money amount divided by minimum wage is gonna equal the number of hours that you'll have to do community service for in order to be complying with work requirements. Another important thing to note is that you can combine different opportunities to reach that 80 hours. So let's say at your job, they can only give you 60 hours this month, but you know you have to hit 80 hours in order to keep your SNAP benefits. If you can find a organization or nonprofit that's willing to sponsor you for volunteering for another 20 hours, so you have 20 hours of community service, 60 hours of your normal job. You combine that, you hit your 80-hour requirement, and you'd still be complying. So community service is a great way to supplement work hours if you are close but not quite hitting those 80 hours a month. And once again, just want to make sure that I'm emphasizing that whatever route you choose in order to comply, you also have to take that step to submit the proper form to the county assistance office. That's super duper important. This slide talks about recent changes for immigrant communities. So the same federal bill, HR 1, also changed eligibility for immigrant groups. We have the groups listed here. And so really, these groups are the ones that are able to continue to get SNAP benefits. And if you have a green card, it's really important that the county assistance office knows about that, knows where you are in the process. We also recommend just reaching out to the county assistance office if you think you might still be eligible. Oftentimes people are unsure and therefore they just say, you know what, I'm not even going to try, but definitely recommend reaching out to the county assistance office. They're also known to be a little difficult to get in touch with. Like you might have a really long hold time, but it will be worth it in the end. They should be able to give you some guidance. So really recommend just checking in with them, even if it's kind of a frustrating process. So what should you do if you've been impacted by these SNAP changes? So if your benefits were lost at time of renewal, you need to reapply within 30 days. So you're going to submit any outstanding documents. You're going to have to complete an interview process. Let the county assistance office know of any exemptions or how you're complying with work requirements. So this could look like submitting your pay stubs. This could look like having the group that you're volunteering with submit the community service form, whatever it is to show that you are complying or you have an exemption. You need to submit that paperwork to the county assistance office. We always recommend, if people have questions, to check out the Benephilly Clarify helpline. So Benephilly is a great resource that connects Philadelphians with a variety of different benefits access, like assistance, including SNAP help. So if you give them a call, which we have their number listed below, they can help walk you through the process. And if you give them a little bit more information about your specific situation, they can give a little bit more specific advice than this kind of general overview that I'm giving right now. Now, if your benefits were cut off during the certification period, participants should submit an appeal. Don't reapply, submit an appeal within 90 days of advance notice. You should submit the fair hearing request form, although this can take up to 2 months to be scheduled. And then you can also work with the county assistance office to, again, identify potential exemptions, fill out the corresponding forms, or work to get in compliance with the new work requirements. In addition to the Benephilly Clarify hotline, we also often recommend people speak with community legal services. So CLS offers pro bono resources and can offer some legal guidance for low-income Philadelphians. So you can feel free to give them a call. We have their number listed here. You can call on Thursdays between 9 a.m. and noon, or you can walk in to their office on West Erie Ave Mondays and Wednesdays in the morning. So I know I just gave a lot of information. So just a quick review about what you should do if you are a recipient of SNAP. First thing, you want to review the recent changes. They're all listed on the PA DHS website. If you think you might have an exemption, we recommend completing the screening tool that I talked about, and we have linked here. Second, it's super important that your address is up to date with both the Pennsylvania DHS and the US Postal Service. Oftentimes, if those are not in alignment, issues come up with sending people stuff in the mail, which then can cause major complications as you're working through your benefits situation. We also recommend that you complete any forms as quick as possible. So this could be the medical exemption form, or it could be the community service form, anything that might help you to show the county assistance office that you're complying or exempt. Definitely fill that out ASAP, ASAP, ASAP. If you're not exempt and you are at risk of not complying with the work requirements, definitely take a look at the website, the county assistance website, to make sure that your work activities will be approved and to see any next steps that you need to take. Always keep the county assistance office up to date on your work status and different activities. So you never want like a lapse in information, which could risk you losing your benefits. And then finally, we have 2 food resources linked here because we know people are going to need help like right now. It's important to reapply and appeal, but obviously you need food in the meantime. So I'm going to talk a bit more in depth about the free food and meal finder a little bit later in the presentation, but it's basically an online tool where you can type in an address and it shows you all the free food options nearby, whether that be community fridges, whether that be hot meals, whether that be school meals. It really gives you like the plethora of free meals nearby. And then PA Navigate, the second resource we have listed here, is just a great one-stop shop for like different resources. So you can find different community service organizations who might be able to help you meet the work requirements and other helpful information. So definitely recommend checking out PA Navigate. If you need additional help, there are some places that you can go as you navigate this process. So of course, your first step should always be the Philadelphia County Assistance Office. We have their website linked here. These are the people who you'll submit all your forms to, and they're super knowledgeable about this process and like ways that you can deal with potential loss of benefits. If you don't feel like going to their physical office, we have their number linked here. You can feel free to give them a call. Like I said, wait times sometimes can be a little overwhelming, but stick with it because we really hope that they're able to help you. And then finally, the Benephilly Clarify hotline, which I mentioned previously. Benephilly is a great place to get connected to a bunch of different resources, but especially in this situation, they can help you fill out your SNAP application. They can help you like look at your appeal or help you think through the like reapplying for SNAP. They're just really great to help people think through their specific situation with benefits access. This slide just lays out a bunch of great resources to have, so I won't go through all of them, but happy to share this PowerPoint afterwards so people can have the links. On the furthest column to the left, we have general information, websites with general information about work requirements. So the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services, that's PADHS, Community Legal Services, and then also the city has a SNAP landing page. So these three websites are great places to stay up to date about any recent changes. In the middle column, we have all the forms that you might need. So this is a great one-stop shop to find the forms. And then on the right-hand side is different resources that might be helpful for people going through the SNAP application process. And this is just the link again to the city's SNAP information page. We've worked really hard to keep this up to date with information about different requirements, next steps, resources, and FAQs. So definitely recommend sharing that page with people in your community who might have questions about recent SNAP changes. And I'm going to pause there for any questions before I go to the resource section of the presentation.
I have one question.
Mhm.
No, I have a couple questions. Where can you find low income guidelines?
What do you mean for just like SNAP in general?
Um, Basically, you mentioned that most of the services available are for people who are have low income.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you know if your salary is low income? Where would you find, is that federal? Are you using a federal low income
So
guideline?
that is for community legal services, which is technically not a city entity or it's not a governmental entity.
Mm.
Um, it's like a separate organization. So I would check out their website for any specific requirements, like if they have a money cutoff, but I doubt that it's anything super specific.
Uh, and related to SNAP, to the benefits, you have to wait a couple of months. Do you have any resources for housing assistance?
So in Philly, the best place if you have questions about housing is to go to the OHS intake center. There's there's Apple Tree Family Center, which is at 15th and Cherry, and then there's the Roosevelt Darby Center, which is 804 North Broad. And so the nice thing about those intake centers is that when you go there, you have access to all of OHS's housing resources. It's not like you have to go to a specific intake center to access a specific resource. So I'm going to talk a little bit down the line about like specific OHS housing work, but we do like some prevention and diversion work. So if people are thinking that their housing might be impacted, the intake centers could be a great place to go to talk about their situation and see what their specific options are.
So that's all that is handled um in person. It's nothing virtual. You can do virtually over the phone. Okay.
They have to go to the intake centers, unfortunately.
Okay. That's it for me with questions.
Okay. Sounds good. So now we're gonna move into kind of the more resource side of things. So just for a little context, I typically do this presentation with a couple other people. So I'm obviously not Donna Clement Jackson, but I'm stepping in for her today, and I'm gonna give her overview on Benephilly, which I mentioned a little bit in the first part of the presentation. So Benephilly is a city resource that's housed in the Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity, which is known as CEO. The mission of this office is to provide leadership on issues of economic justice by advancing racial equity and inclusive growth to ensure that all Philadelphians might share in the city's prosperous future. Like I mentioned previously, Benephilly is a really great place to either call their hotline or visit one of their centers if you have any questions about potential benefits that you could be eligible for. So here you see the Benephilly Benefits Suite. So basically, they've divided potential benefits into different categories, whether that be healthcare and prescriptions, shelter and utility costs, food and nutrition, cash assistance, or screening and referrals. And the folks at Benephilly are actually equipped to talk you through the application process for these different programs and kind of just be like a guiding hand as you fill out forms, and any questions that might come up, they're able to answer. So we recommend people checking on Benephilly for really any benefit that they might need, but especially for SNAP, we know that these rules can be super confusing. So Benephilly could be a great place to reach out to if you have like specific questions on your situation. So you're able to go into a Benephilly center if you want to meet with somebody in person. They have 5 locations around the city. As you can see by these addresses, they're located all throughout different parts of the city. The one thing to mention here is that Philadelphia Fight, which is located on the bottom left-hand side of this screen, you can only go to this Benephilly Center if you are a new or returning medical client. But the other 5 that we have listed, anybody can walk in, no questions asked, and they'll help you talk through your options. So this is Donna's contact info. This right here, 215-685-3650 is her direct line. If you have any questions about benefits access, you can feel free to give her a phone call or email her. Any questions on that? That one was quite short.
No, no questions on that.
No questions. Okay, cool. So now I'll talk a little bit about the work that the Office of Children and Family does. Typically, my colleague Laura Crandall talks through this section, but again, I'm going to present her slides. So this is the online free food locator. You can find it by entering phila.gov/food. On the left-hand side, you can see what the web page looks like. So all the different dots that you're seeing represents a different meal site, and the different colors denote the type of meal site. So this resource is great because it's super comprehensive. So you can look for hot meals, you can look for meals just for older folks, you can look for school meals. You really have the ability to customize your search to fit your needs. And it's also great because you can search a specific address and it will automatically generate a list of meal sites nearby. If you're a little bit more open to going to different parts of the city, you can also search by day of the week and even time that the site is open. This website is available in multiple different languages in case people feel more comfortable speaking other languages. So it's currently available in 6 languages: English, Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Russian, and French. So if you scroll down on this page, you'll see some other food resources listed. So if you click on free food and additional support, you'll get the picture on the right-hand side. So I'm going to go more in depth about the Office of Homeless Services list of free meals programs in my part of the presentation. You can also enter your zip code into the Community Resource Connects to find food and other resources near you. The city also runs a local farmers market tool. So that basically functions the same way as phila.gov/food, but it's only for farmers markets. And then there's also a plug, of course, for Benephilly. And if people think they might be eligible for WIC, we have a direct link right there to take you to an informational page. They also have these flyers that are available that basically gives you like all the information about phila.gov/food. These food access flyers are available in 15 different languages. And then they also have postcards, which are just tinier versions of the flyer, available in eight languages. So this is a really great way to get this information out into your community. We have the links right here. And like I said, I'm happy to share this PowerPoint afterwards so everybody can access the links. If you're looking at the free meal finder and you say, hey, you know, my church gives out food, but it's not listed here, you can always reach out to Laura Crandall. Her email is listed here on the top left-hand side, and her colleague, John Fitzgibbons, and just let them know a little bit of information about the organization, their contact information, when and where they're serving, and any specific instructions that someone might need if they're coming to get food. So we always welcome making our resources as expansive as possible. So if you know of any groups that should be added to this list, please let us know. We just ask that any groups that are listed here, food has to be totally open for anybody. There can't be any requirements to getting the food. Like, for example, you can't ask people for their IDs. And it's also important that the meals occur on a regular basis. So, for example, we could say like meals happen the first Monday of every month, or meals happen every Tuesday at 5 p.m. There just needs to be a consistent schedule, so we're not constantly updating the website. Any questions on the online free food locator?
No questions on that.
Cool. Okay, so now to my bread and butter, the Office of Homeless Services resources. So I've already introduced myself. My name is Claire, and I'll just be talking a little bit about OHS's resources and specifically our food resources. So I work in the food services unit. So we provide food for shelters. We work with groups who serve meals out in different parts of the city outdoors, and really work to make sure that the groups that are providing meals have access to as many resources as possible to connect people with. So on this first page, I just talk a little bit about OHS overall. So up top, I have the mission statement, which is to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. And like I mentioned when I was answering your question, Jesse, our work is divided, our housing work is divided into a couple different categories. So the first is prevention and diversion. So if people have a place that they are staying in and can stay in with a little bit of help, we want to make sure that we're doing that rather than forcing them to go to a totally new place. So for example, we run the Stranded Travelers program. So the way that this program works is if you're in Philly right now, but you say to us, oh, I have family in New York, here's where I'm going, here's where I'll be staying. OHS can get you a bus ticket to get to New York, so you can get connected with whoever you have up there. We can send people anywhere within the continental US, but one, it would be via bus. So if you're trying to get to California, it might take a really long time. And two, you have to show us that you have somewhere that you can stay in your new location. Those are the two big like caveats to the program. The second housing division of work is emergency and temporary shelter. So this relates to what most people think of when they think of homeless services. Like, let's say like today, it's 95 degrees outside. Somebody needs a cool place to stay. Where can they stay overnight so they don't overheat? They need help right now. What can we do? That is our emergency and temporary shelter work. Our third big housing category is long-term housing. So of course we want people to feel connected to where they're staying. We want to make sure that we're providing more stable solutions for folks that are interested in that. So we offer long-term housing programs like rapid rehousing to get people into more long-term solutions. So like I said earlier, if you're interested in housing assistance, best place to go is the OHS intake centers. Apple Tree Family Center is at 15th and Cherry, and the Roosevelt Darby Center is 804 North Broad. You'll speak with a social worker there, and they'll be able to kind of talk you through your options. Now, our fourth bucket of work is the food security work. That's the work that I do. The goal being to inform food insecure people where to go for free food and meals, and empowering our partners to provide healthy options in dignified and safe settings. So now a little bit more about the food services unit in particular. So like I mentioned, we really want to make sure that the meals are being offered in safe and dignified settings. There's just little things you can do to make it feel more welcoming for people if you're serving a meal. So for example, you can make sure that they have somewhere to sit. So like bringing like folding chairs. You can make sure that they have cutlery, just little things like that really make it feel like more care went into the meal and to the food, and it's just a nicer experience. Second, we want to make sure that the food being provided is healthy. So we want to make sure we're offering people nutrient-rich food. We like to really offer people a bunch of different options in terms of the food. So for example, we're running a taste test program at some of our family shelters where each week we have a different vegetable, and across a 7-week time span, they get to try that vegetable prepared 7 different ways. So they can learn about like different ways that food can be prepared and like potentially get to try a vegetable that they've never had before. Third, we really see food as a way to connect people to different services. So while they might be coming to us for a meal, they might also need additional resources. So how can we connect them with different resources that they might need? We want to make sure that we empower our partners with enough information to send people in the right direction. And then, so finally, related to that, we really work to support the capacity of our meal providers through trainings and other resources. This slide just talks a little bit about some of the programs that we run in our unit. So the first 4 are grant programs that we run. And then we also run a warehouse in North Philly that provides free food to our shelters and some of our meal sites. That is funded through the state food purchase program primarily. This food comes in bulk. Shelters and other meal sites can come and pick up this product once a month, and then they're able to use it at their meal sites. Here we just have a couple resources that our office or that our unit has put together. So the first one I want to talk about is the free meals flyer. So this is basically a printable version of phila.gov/food, but it only focuses on hot meal sites. So it's not going to be the kind of places that you can go and like get ingredients to cook somewhere else. You're going to have a meal that's ready to eat right there, right now. Just like the meals on the online free food locator, any meal that's listed on our free meals flyer is open to anybody, no requirements, no appointment necessary. You can just go and get a free meal. It's available in multiple different languages. And on the next slide, I'll show you a picture of what it looks like. The best place to find the most up-to-date version is our website. So the second resource I have listed here, I've already talked about. It's the online free food locator. So that's the one where you type in the address and you get all your food options nearby. We also recommend that people sign up for the Resource Row newsletter. So this goes out 2 times a month. It is OHS wide. So if you sign up for it, you'll get updates both about our housing work and our food work. And it's really just a great place to learn a little bit more about our work, different grant opportunities, different trainings we might be having. Just a great place to stay connected. And then finally, we host trainings. So like I said, we know that our meal providers often have people coming in needing a bunch of different resources. So our goal for the trainings is to provide them with information about topics that they might not get training on otherwise. So for example, last week we hosted an HIV prevention training. We've hosted a mental health first aid training. We've hosted CPR trainings. We really just try to have these trainings run the gamut to make sure that our people have as much information as possible. So this is what the free meals flyer looks like. You can see it's broken up by meal time, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then it's also broken down by day. So the goal was for it to basically function like a calendar, and each meal site, you'll be able to see the name, the phone number if you need to contact them, address, and time of meal service. So definitely recommend checking this out. It's, like I said, it's printable. It's just 2 sides, so it can easily fit in your back pocket. And yeah, it's a great resource. And this is available on our website. This slide has 2 other flyers that are available on our website. So the one on the left is the permit that you would need if you're serving meals outdoors in the city. OHS actually doesn't run this permit, but we do make sure that our meal providers know that they have to have it. Basically, you just fill out the application, you email this woman, Dawn, whose name is listed at the bottom, and they will get you set up with the necessary permit. And whenever you're serving meals outdoors, it's really important that you have it. On the right-hand side is a helpful flyer to help you think through who the right person to call is if you see somebody who you think might need help. So we have different phone numbers listed here. For example, we have our intake centers. If you think somebody needs special assistance because they're a survivor of domestic or intimate partner violence, we have numbers listed there. It's just a great resource to help you think through the specific situation that you need help with. It's pretty all-encompassing. And then finally, I'll just end with some ways that you can help. So we recommend that everybody save the OHS outreach hotline number in their phone. So it's 215-232-1984. If you call this number, we'll have some of our outreach staff come out and visit the person who you called about. We want to note that we will not send cops out to help people. It's trauma-informed staff. Oftentimes it's those with lived experience, and they're able to offer additional assistance or even just let people know that they're there if they need them. Second, if you're interested in getting a little bit more involved and you want to volunteer, we recommend looking at our partner organizations on the free meals flyer. This is a really all-encompassing list of people who you could potentially volunteer with. They're always looking for people to help serve meals, help prepare meals. They could always just use an extra hand. And then finally, we recommend focusing on giving money or items to organizations as opposed to folks you might see on the street, especially with food. Organizations can just make money go a little bit further because they're able to buy in bulk. So for example, you think about the price of things at Costco versus at Acme. If you buy bulk at Costco, you're probably going to save a little money. Same kind of concept. So definitely recommend making sure to give money to organizations. And if you're giving specific items, just give the organization a call ahead of time to make sure that they're in need of that item.